Hey guys, as a bookkeeper, a lot of times you hear about doing year-end closing or year-end bookkeeping. So what exactly does that mean? As I was doing research for this video, I was kind of like, am I missing something? Is there some big closing process that I don't do? But basically, a lot of the things are kind of things that I do ongoing throughout the year. And then at the end of the year, I just make sure that they are complete. So I try to organize my list as much as possible. First of all, I combined all the things that are for payroll specifically at the end of the year that you need to do. So I have a section for payroll, and then I just have the regular stuff, like I said, like the stuff that I'm doing all the time that you just need to make sure is totally done at the end of the year. And then my third section is the actual annual tasks that most of the time you do once per year. And hopefully you can bear with me as the sun is kind of setting. We are not going to get that much more sun in Oregon, so I was like, I need to take advantage of this sunny day. So I'm going to dive into my list of payroll tasks, and then before I get into my other two lists, I'm going to dive into just a little bit about how I work with accountants and how that all works as a bookkeeper. All right, so for payroll, you need to collect W-9s. This can be done throughout the year. This is for any vendors that are contractors that you are going to give a 1099 to, and that W-9 is just like a little get to know you form. And so it gives their number, their EIN, and what type of business they are, and that helps you fill out the 1099. And I do have a whole video tutorial about how to fill out 1099s. The thumbnail looks like this. You can check that out if you want some more info on this subject. Another thing you may need to do at year end is talk to the owner about bonuses. A lot of times employees get bonuses at the end of the year, so that is kind of a payroll task. And you need to make sure that whatever is in QuickBooks matches the reporting that is in your payroll. So at the end of the year, my accountant wants certain payroll reports from Gusto, which is the payroll company I use. And so I am printing out all these reports. So you need to make sure that the numbers are matching. And in my case, they always match pretty much because I map Gusto to QuickBooks. And so it's like an automatic feed. So usually that is not an issue. All right. And then as part of year end, you can start preparing to send those 1099s and those W-2 forms. So make sure the information that you have on your employees and your contractors is correct. And just a quick note, I'm a bookkeeper. I do not prepare taxes. So I always partner with an accountant or a tax preparer. I do have a video all about how to bookkeepers work with accountants. The thumbnail looks like that if you're curious about more information on that topic. But basically, usually when a client hires me, they already have an accountant. I mean, I could recommend one also if they would like, but usually they already have a person in place. And then me and the accountant are collaborating, and then I usually send them an invite to my client's QuickBooks Online if they are not already set up in there, and then they can view everything as a free viewer. All right, let's talk about the section of my list that I just called regular stuff. So this just means that it's stuff that I do all year that you just need to make sure to finish in December and make sure it's all looking good. So you need to make sure all 12 months are reconciled and everything is matching what is on the bank statements. It's helpful to look at any invoices and follow up on ones that have not been paid. And if you know that they're never going to get paid, you can actually write that off. That would be a whole nother video. I learned about that years ago and I don't do it regularly, but that is definitely an option for certain clients if that's helpful. You can also look at bills that you need to pay for your clients or checks that have not been cashed yet. So anything that's kind of hanging out in QuickBooks, check on why that is. And you might need to send some follow-ups to some people. Okay, I changed positions just a little bit, but the next thing I wanted to mention is receipts. So I do have a whole video on receipt management if that is something you do for your clients. And I'm pointing you guys to these other videos because I don't want to repeat myself if you've already watched those videos. And then you just want to run reports for your client. So the main difference now is that it's going to be the end of the year. So it's going to have the entire year's financial data, right? And so profit and loss, balance sheet, statement of cash flows, all that kind of stuff you can pull and give to your client. And then in theory, if I'm keeping up on stuff, I have been kind of checking it throughout the year. So I check oh, the water bill, we should have one for every month. So if I look into my water bill category and I have 50 transactions in there, I know something's wrong. So I do look through each category and make sure that they look correct. All right, then let's move on to the annual tasks, the things that you most likely are just doing about once per year. So first of all, contact the accountant about what they need for year end. And yeah, you might talk to your accountant throughout the year, but right now ask them what do you need from me for the year-end taxes? So they're definitely going to need that QuickBooks invitation, like I mentioned, if they don't already have that. Usually they want some bank statements, maybe January and December. Some accountants might want the whole year, so check with them on that. And as I'm working and kind of checking through stuff, I just have a Word document open that has a list of questions, like questions for the accountant and questions for the business owner, and then like things that I'm gonna follow up on. All right, the next thing on the list is close your books in QuickBooks. So this one truthfully is not my specialty. I don't always like prioritize this super high, but some clients are definitely going to request that you do this. All right, and then you want to compile any deductions that are not in QuickBooks. So that could definitely be mileage if you're using a car or your office space. So a lot of times just at the end of the year, my accountant's like, how big is your office? And then they can deduct the square footage, as well as depreciation. So that's not actually something I've ever like put in QuickBooks, but the accountant will do that, or the tax person will do that. And what I'm usually responsible for is working with the owner to compile a list of the larger assets that do get depreciated. So I think I've talked about that in some other videos, but let me know if you'd like a dedicated video on depreciation. All right, and annually it is a good time to save bank statements, download them from the bank and save them, because not all banks will let you go back and review them all, so it's nice to have your own copy. And you can think about the same thing with any other like paperwork or statements that you are dealing with. It's also good to think about budget and goal setting. This will vary again, client to client. The only few clients have I been responsible for creating budgets for, but obviously every year that is what you do, you update the budget. And then you can work with your clients to talk about financial goals. What are some of their key performance indicators that they want to be tracking next year? And how can you help with that? I have a key performance indicator video on my channel also that you can check out. And the next two things are a little bit more rare. You can take inventory, meaning if you're a business that tracks inventory, like a store of some kind, then usually once a year you go through and you count up all the inventory. I'm not sure if every business does that. I've actually never done it as a bookkeeper. I've done it when I worked in a store and I helped out with inventory, but check and see what your client's process is for that. And same with audits. So a couple times places that I have worked have had a internal audit, or even they've hired an outside source to audit them. I think that is more common with nonprofits. I think it's a requirement for nonprofits. But sometimes, audits are pre-set up. And of course, you could also get audited by the IRS, which I believe is more of a surprise usually. So if you are going through an auditing process, there are probably things that you're going to need to prepare, reports you need to pull, certain, resources or receipts, and proof of expenses and that kind of thing. All right, and then I have a video from 2 years ago where I talked about the same topic, and then I went over all the questions for my actual accountant, like the real questions, and that is helpful to me, so I thought it'd be helpful to you to kind of know like what they're looking for, what they're asking, so I can be more proactive about getting them what they need. So we didn't have as many this year, but these are questions from my actual accountant. And I had a new accountant this year, so I think that contributed, we were figuring out how to work together even better. So the first question I had was, he wanted basically check stubs for each of our tax payments. So all our quarterly taxes we paid, he wanted like the check. And I think that for my husband's business, we had the checks, and then for our personal accounts, for our personal taxes, we just paid through the online portal, so we didn't have checks, so I just let him know that. All right, and then number two, like I said, because it was the first time we were working together, he asked about those deductions that I mentioned. So he asked, do you want me to deduct your home office? Do you want me to deduct your cell phone usage? Do you want me to deduct your mileage? And I gave him the info for my office. I told him that I really don't use my cell phone for business almost at all. So I said, don't worry about that, because I don't really call people. I use Zoom if I need to talk to them. I mean, maybe it would be a very tiny percentage, but it wasn't worth it. Same with mileage. I really just stay home, which is what I love about working from home. I just love being here and not having to commute. All right, next question. He asked me about the 1099s that I had prepared, just checking that they were all done and complete for every vendor. And I said, yes, they were. All right, the next question had to do with an amended W-2 form. So for my husband's health insurance, he is the owner of a corporation, of a S Corp, I think. So his health care was different somehow. So basically it wasn't reflected correctly on the W-2 form that he had been getting in his salary throughout the year. And so we just had to amend that, which actually was like surprisingly easy in Gusto. There's like, I forget where, but you just, there's a little button you can press that's like make an amendment to your W-2. So the accountant was just following up to make sure that we had that thing completed. All right, then the next question he asked was very specific, but it was about my husband pays dues to the Oregon State Bar as an attorney, like the bar for lawyers. And the accountant wanted to know, was any of that money used for lobbying costs? And I checked with my husband and he said no. So I'm assuming that if any of it was lobbying costs, it would be taxed differently. That wasn't something I was ever aware of, but I don't think any of it is used for lobbying. So I just let him know that no, none of that is lobbying. My name is Morgan if you don't know me, and you can check out my free masterclass that is about how to get clients. It's actually how I got my first 3 clients, the real ways I got them. And if you want more bookkeeper videos, definitely subscribe to my channel. And my website is finepoints.biz. There's a lot of good resources there as well. And I did want to note about this checklist, like some checklists out there were super complicated. Some were super simple. I tried to keep mine kind of middle of the road, like it's hopefully fairly easy to understand, but it is complete. That was kind of my goal.